I'm Indra,
And I'm Amanda.
and we'd like to welcome you to The Messy Middle Matters. Hey, Amanda, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Indra?
I'm doing well. Our topic for today is hiring smart people and some of the consequences that happen when you do hire smart people. And when I think about hiring smart people, I think of my first day at work at a digital agency many, many, many moons ago. There were about 7 of us in orientation sitting in one of the conference rooms, getting a walk through by HR and everybody else. And in came our regional president to greet us and say hello. And one of the ways that he greeted us was to let us know, like, hey, you got hired here because you're the smartest people in the room in the places that you've come from in the past. But here we only hire the smartest people who come from their respective rooms. So get ready to be humbled. I was like, okay, that hit. I mean, it was good expectation setting, but it hit hard. But then fast forward, a number of years later, there was a housing market collapse, right? And so everything was going sideways. All different organizations were getting hit by the economy and all the things that were happening at that moment in time. And in all of our town halls, the way that they would message it to us was as if we weren't smart people who couldn't figure out what was going on. It was so frustrating. All you want to do is scream, like, you hired us because we're smart and we know you're not saying what you think you're saying by saying those words.
Right. You're saying all these words, and we all understand that this is just smoke and mirrors.
Smoke and mirrors all day long. And yeah, it was an interesting moment in time. But I think that so many times and in so many organizations, people do go through those interview processes to hire the top talent, but then don't always know how to support that talent once they're hired.
Yeah. When you said the interview processes, I just thought of every interview process I've ever experienced. It's just like multiple rounds, like the puzzles, the brain teasers, the tell me about yourselves, the assessing for critical thinking and adaptability and initiative and all of these things, all of these check boxes. And
you feel like a performing dog going through all this.
Right. And then you get hired and you show that you use those skills that you were interviewed and presumably hired for. And they're like, no, stay in your box.
Stay in your box. And you're just like, but why did you hire me? You wanted somebody who could do this, and this, but you're not giving those tasks to me.
Right.
And there are reasons why this can happen. And we'll go through some of those. I mean, I think that I was in a talk or listening to a talk recently, and they were talking about how, when people get elevated to a new level, especially like in a people leadership role, but it could go even higher than that. What can happen is that person is so used to doing, these 5 tasks to get the reward and recognition that they're used to getting. Then they get elevated, let's say at a director level. They still keep doing those 5 tasks at that director level, not recognizing the fact that directors get rewarded on completely different things. And they need to stop doing that. They don't delegate that stuff to their team and let them do the work that they used to do and get rewarded for.
Yeah, I think we talked about this during one of our episodes. I want to say it was like the you want to be a manager episode. Where
probably.
What got you here isn't what's going to keep you going.
No, and you need to learn how to delegate, which is, and there's lots of reasons that, managers don't delegate. That was just one example of why somebody doesn't, a people leader or a leader in the organization doesn't delegate their responsibilities. It could be the fear that the team won't do it as well as they could. Or it could be that, they're afraid that their team could do it better than they could. Right.
Right. Like there's that insecurity piece there.
100%. And, it's not overly useful. Like for this particular one, whenever I'm faced with trying to look at myself and see whether or not I should be doing something. I think of a story. There was a wonderful CEO while I was there at TD Ameritrade. His name is Tim Hockey. And we were in a leadership forum. It was a Q&A session. And somebody was asking for some particular advice. I don't remember what the question was, but I do remember his response. He said, when you step into a leadership role or as you move up in your career, it's important that you do the things that you're uniquely qualified to do and let everyone else do the rest. And I was like,
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about, the contradiction
yeah,
of, making people go through this process to get hired. And you're hiring these smart people, and then when they start on the job, you don't allow them to be smart, right?
right.
Or you're surprised that they're smart.
You're surprised. Like, what? Like, wait, how do you know that? Like, because you hired me, because I know that.
Right. And I think a lot of it comes back to just flexing those leadership muscles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Learning how to lead as opposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And what people don't realize that there are consequences when you don't let the person that you hired do the thing that they were hired to do, you're in a pickle. You're in a real big pickle. I mean, and sometimes you hire the person because you knew you needed the skills for this particular project, and that particular initiative or whatever it might be is not coming through. You're still waiting for approvals and you need to bide your time. We're not talking about that scenario. That's in that scenario, you let the person know, hey, this is why we hired you. This is what's going on. Right now, we can't let you use your skills. You explain the whole thing to them. And in the meantime, can you do X, Y, and Z? Like that you handle that way. But when you have the ability or you're in a position to let people thrive and something in yourself is not letting you do that, right? What you're going to do is that one per like, well, let's just assume it's one person, right? That one person is going to get so frustrated, and that frustration, at best, that person will leave and just go to find another job, right? Which means that you've burned all that time and energy finding a person, and you're at square one again, fulfilling your need. But that's your best case scenario, if you can believe that. Your worst case scenario, or a more realistic scenario, is that person is there and they start talking to others, and their frustration starts to spread, and there's a contagion across your organization.
Yeah, contagion is such a good word for it,
Yeah.
right? And it really does come down to leadership style and
Hmm.
leadership abilities, right?
Yeah.
Because yeah, sure, you can vent your frustrations to your peers, but if they're seeing the same things too, if they're experiencing the same things too,
Which they probably
that
are.
right, there's something about that little venting conversation triggers something in them to be like, "Oh, you're right. This is
Validation.
frustrating. This is
Yes.
terrible. Like every
Uh-huh.
time I raise my hand in a meeting with, what I think is a good idea, because they hired me because I ask questions. I'm innovative. Like I have fresh perspective. Insert all of the things here.
All the
But
things.
but when I raise my hand to suggest a new idea, I'm shut down every single time. And it's like, why did they hire me if they're not going to listen to me?
Right. Or in another scenario, it could be I raise my hand to take on something that's a stretch goal, and you keep on shutting me down and you keep on delegating to the same person. If you don't manage that expectation and handle that and give a clear reason for why you're not doing that, clear, satisfying reason
Yes.
for why you're not doing that, it's really it just spreads. It just spreads, it just spreads, it just spreads.
Yeah, and I think it spreads. So that part spreads, and I think the innovation and the
Mm.
momentum stagnates.
Yes, you're not giving space for people to breathe and play and get curious around the things that they're doing or try things out.
Right.
Sometimes this comes across in, like, maybe you will delegate it, but then you start micromanaging all the delegation. That doesn't work either.
Yeah,
That's not
I
delegation.
I
That's not
yeah.
delegation.
Yeah, I've seen that, and that really doesn't work. That is actually worse than than like not delegating at all.
It really is. I mean, I've done things where, I give somebody a stretch goal and, we're against a deadline or against a lot of things. Like I'm thinking of one particular person in one particular scenario, but I've done it many times. Like she said to me, she's like, I want to try to do this thing. I'm like, great, fantastic. I'm like, that we have a deadline of tomorrow and you know that we need to nail this. So what I'm going to do is I don't want you to feel all the pressure of this because it's a high stakes situation, but I'm going to let you run. Let's give you a shot. I'm also going to do the work and do it as well so that we have two potential solutions for addressing it on the day up. I'm not trying to undermine you. I tell them ahead of time so they don't feel like, oh my God, she didn't trust me. Like, no, I'm trusting you, but I'm also giving you a safety net, right?
I was gonna say it's a safety net, which is nice, but you have to be clear up front because
Up front.
otherwise, the stories that people tell themselves, right? It's just like, oh, Indra didn't trust me. Like she just went off and did it on her own because she didn't trust me to do it myself.
It feels terrible. Or if I had come in and like, what is it? Seagull management, swoop and poop. If I'd swooped and pooped on her at the end, be like, hey, your solution doesn't work. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to be the hero and I'm going to stay up and pull an all-nighter to pull da 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 da. Like that also feels terrible. Even if I didn't say it in a snarky way, even if I did it in a nice way and like, hey, this is for you to try out. Let's stretch you. Let's grow you. You are smart. You are intelligent. Let's figure out how to do this. And then if they were to come short, coming like, and then like, oh, I have to do, they'll feel bad that they didn't meet the expectations. So you find the ways to let people stretch in different scenarios. Or if they're an expert in the thing, let them run. Find the check-ins along the way to make sure that they have the organizational context or the project context or whatever it is to make sure that they actually succeed at it, not just with their technical skills, but with their contextual organizational skills. You'll find a way. You find a way. And when your team wins, like that's the thing what some leaders don't understand. Like good leaders, when there's a success, they let their team shine. When there's a failure, they take the demerit for themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when your team shines, you actually shine. You need to stand in the background, but it actually speaks to how good of a leader you are. So let go of the thing, have a little faith in your organization, be there to support them, and let them take the credit. And you're actually going to look really great in the end.
Right. Success is the team's doing, and failure, or less than success, I'm not going to call everything a failure,
Yeah.
right? But less than success is on you as a
Yes.
leader.
100%.
You take the fall.
100%. But like you were talking about, like it does also stifle ideas. It does stifle innovation, and innovation isn't always like the next iPhone. Innovation can be like these little micro moments that make everything just a little bit better. You talked a little bit about that, but like when you stifle your team, you kind of lock them in amber, so to speak. They get locked in time and they stagnate and they get stuck and it just becomes mechanical,
Yeah, you lock them in a state of, what came to mind was compliance.
Ooh,
right?
And not the good kind of compliance that keeps you out of jail, right? We're talking about like just very yes sir, no sir. I'm not going to think thank you sir. I'm an automaton who just does what they're told. Yeah.
Right, because every time I question what I've been told to do, I was told to just do it. Just do it my way.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that, we've spent a fair bit of time talking about supporting the teams that are there, but that newcomer, when they're coming in, when you hire that really, really smart person and you want them to do really smart things before they start or before you even post the job, you need to think through how you're going to support them. Because the thing is that smart talent is they can be the most satisfying people to lead, but they're hard to lead. It takes a lot of work. They will challenge you in such good ways, but they will challenge you, and you need to, before you even start recruiting, really analyze, are you ready to support them? Are you ready to let go of things? Are you ready for the fact that they will challenge you? Like they will ask you questions. They will be inquisitive. They will be precocious. They will do all those things. think about your strategies of how you're going to support them, how you're going to give them the space, how you're going to let them, how you're going to unlock all of their smartness.
Yeah. I love that you used the word precocious. It's just such a good word. But yeah, I think you're right. The hiring manager, or the manager of said people, um, really you need to take a look at yourself,
Yeah.
like do some deep reflection and ask yourself, like, are you emotionally ready? Are you emotionally ready to be challenged, to have somebody like me ask you like a million questions about why is it this way, why
Yeah.
are we doing that, not in a like, oh, why are we doing that, but like, but why are we doing that?
Yes.
And do you have the answers?
Do you
Are
have
you
the answers?
prepared to have the answers? And or are you just going to get frustrated and be like, it's just the way it is, like just do what I tell you to do, right? Like, because that's not how you support the talent that you think you want to hire.
Right. Or are you prepared to say, I don't know. Let's
Hmm.
figure it out together.
Right.
You don't need to have every answer,
Hmm.
but you need to be able to, you need to be ready to engage. You need to
Right.
be ready to engage. You need to be ready to be creative in the way that you support this person. You need to be ready to sometimes tell them, hey, I love the fact that you challenge me. This is not the moment to do that. Right? You
Right.
need to know and hone your skills in being a good leader if you want to have a team full of really exceptional talent. Now, I'm not saying it is, in my opinion, it is terrible organizational design to have a team exclusively of top talent. That you need to have a good mix for a wide variety of reasons. That's a whole nother episode. But so I don't want anyone to take any sort of assumptions away from around for that. But if you did have a team full of really smart people, you need to be ready for that. And you need to go to your proverbial leadership gym and get ready to exercise your letting go muscle, exercise your communication muscle, exercise your patience muscle, all the muscles, right?
Right. And if you've thought about all of this and you realize, I think I want the most exceptional talent. I think I want the smart people. I think I want the best and the brightest and the most innovative and this, that, and the other thing. But you take a step back and you think about what the job really entails
Yeah.
and what you are willing to support. And you're like, actually, I need a smart person, but I don't need like the best, the most exceptional. I actually right now at this point in time for this job, I would be very happy with someone who, someone less senior, someone who is just able to come in and like do the things that we've asked them to do. And like that's their job.
And
That's
that's
okay.
and that's good leadership and that's good
Mhm.
business because the
Right.
world takes all kinds and not everyone wants to be the top talent.
Mhm.
Like some people just like that and that's perfectly fine. I'd say the other thing that looping back to my story that I started this episode with, the other thing is when you've hired any smart people in your organization, any of them, they don't need to all be smart, but any smart person in your organization, when times get tough and you need to deliver tough messages, you have to remember that they are going to see through your veneer of what you're saying,
Yep.
right? You need to figure out, you need to employ lots of different skills. You need to be skillful in the message you deliver in large forums. You need to, in my opinion, leave breadcrumbs so that people who know can understand what you're saying and why you're saying it in what the ways that you're saying it. You need to be really skillful on which levers you pull, where, why, and how. But like you need to maybe have side conversations with people that can help support that message that does not make sense. Like I have a blog post out there from many, many moons ago, like um little off topic on topic is why such and such person left the company. Why didn't anyone tell me? Right. And it outlines why that's not the case. Like the long and the short of it is employment law. sometimes employers have to comply to the law and they cannot tell you everything. And there are things that they're trying to mitigate it against. And the employment law is actually to protect the person who's no longer with the organization. They're not treating you like you're stupid. They're not thinking that they're not being disrespectful to the person who left and their legacy. They're not doing a lot of these things. And this holds true whether that was I'm going to use corporate speak, voluntary or an involuntary exit. In both
Mhm.
scenarios, they're not going to make a big deal about it, at least not officially, because there are certain rules and regulations that are in place to protect these. But that does mean that you need to whisper in enough people's ears, like, hey, remember, like when somebody says something to you, remind them about employment law or whatever you're talking about. Like, you need to plant those seeds in the right places with your right communicators to help spread the secondary message in the right way, and they need to do it skillfully.
Yeah. When you said, employers have to remember when times are tough, right? Immediately what came to mind was layoffs. I've seen many layoffs in my career, been on both sides of
Yep.
layoffs, right? I've been the one laid off, I've been the one to survive the
Mm-hmm.
layoff. And there were communications that were good, solid, clear, and there were
Yeah.
communications that were like, do they all think we're dumb?
Do they all think we're dumb? And even your most junior person might think that. Your mid-level people might think that. Your person who's happy coming in and just doing their job might think that. Your top talent might think that. Like everyone might think that. Like you need to find the ways to, if send the messages to make sure that everyone, or get your alliances together, because people are smart and you hire them because they're smart and talented.
Yeah. And right. And if you are not good at that kind of messaging, like
Yeah.
if you flub it, that
The impact.
it's bad. The after effect of that is bad.
And it lasts. It's not immediate.
Mhm.
It lasts for it lasts for years. I'm not
Mhm.
talking about weeks. I'm not talking about years. People will remember that.
Oh yeah, people lose confidence, right? People lose confidence when, again, when you hire smart people and you
Mhm.
treat them like they're not smart. Or
And
at least you make it seem like you treat them like they're not smart, right?
yeah, and give them outlets. Just give them outlets. Create the right forums to find the right things. So we've talked about top talent. We've talked about more generally speaking, but just assume that everyone in your workplace is smart. Assume that they will know that there's a charade going on when you have a charade going on. At least one person will know, and that word will spread. And figure out how to mitigate that. So
Yeah, figure out how to support the people you've hired.
yeah. I mean, and like another scenario, like I was trying to think, like, 'cause I'm trying to think of like other scenarios where this happens. Like another one, and again, this is a whole entire episode unto itself, is when we talk about promotion cycles. Like,
Uh-huh.
like the reality of it is that promotion cycles super complicated. And the reality is that there are usually caps. Not that anyone will ever use that terminology. No one will ever say that out loud. And this is Indra speaking in Indra language, right? There are usually caps, and that's usually having to do with budgets. That's usually having to do with the number of people they can have at certain levels without the organization being upside down, being too top heavy, what I mean by upside down in this context, and making sure that enough people understand that and getting ahead of those things. Like I try and get ahead of performance cycle managing expectations 6 months in advance. 6 months in advance. Like, let's start managing that stuff and let's start talking about hypothetical scenarios about hypothetical organizations, or arming, your people who you can trust to have those conversations with the right language, with the right context.
Yeah,
So,
and you just hit something. Setting expectations, right?
that
Like
expectation.
set those expectations. And I think going back to the beginning where we talk
Yeah.
about interviewing
Yeah.
for these roles,
Yeah.
set those expectations with those candidates, those employees, set those expectations with yourself.
I think that's a beautiful button for this. I mean, like it is about setting expectations, resetting expectations, resetting expectations, reminding people of the resetting of the expectations. It's important. We're just human beings. We're just human beings. And as one of my teachers once said, these brains that we have, they're terrible computers. Their memories are not so good. The way that things like it's not deep. It's a computer that hasn't been defragged since the 80s, right? Like they're faulty. They're faulty. We remember what we remember, we forget what we forget, and we misremember. So reset, reset, reset expectations.
For sure.
I love it. Amanda, yet another amazing, rich conversation. I hope that all of our listeners got something out of it today, whether it was validation or an insight or anything. And I hope that everyone joins us next time when we explore another topic from the messy middle. Bye, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for taking time with us in the messy middle. Word of mouth remains the most powerful way for people to find us. If this episode sparked something for you, we'd love it if you'd subscribe to the podcast on your favorite app, download a few episodes, and share it with someone else who's navigating the in between. Do you have ideas for future episodes or topics you'd like us to explore? You can find our feedback form at themessymiddlematters.com or in the show notes. Thank you for joining us on this journey. This work is better when we do it together. Until next time.